Hi, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. I don't know about anybody else, but my calendar was unsure of whether it was going to Zoom or to Google Meetings. So I don't know if others are having issues.
I'm not sure. It took me a while to get in. It just kind of, I guess they have to let us all in.
It's a Zoom enhancement. Did we lose Lee? Am I the only one who can't see him anymore?
Here, as a matter of fact, let's get going. We can call the meeting to order of this August the 31st, last day of August, starting September tomorrow. So let me go through the routine here. If you're listening or watching the meeting through the webinar format, please use the raise your hand function. Simply click on the participants icon and Zoom toolbar and look for the raise your hand button on the bottom right hand side of the screen. Those of you who are viewing and meeting through the webinar may also comment via the chat function. If you're watching via Facebook Live and would like to comment, please call the call-in number at 1-312-626-6799 and use the meeting ID 868-0243-8460, and I'll read that again. The number is 1-312-626-6799, and the ID meeting is 868-0243-8460. Okay, first thing is roll call, and Member Certain, I can see you, so I'm going to say you're here.
Okay.
Member Clark? Member Cole Smith?
Here.
Okay. Member Cornell?
Here.
Member Hart?
Here.
Member Labarda?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Twombly? Member Wilson Bullard?
She's here, but she's muted.
Okay, I see her. And I'm here. So any questions about the agenda revision or approval from anyone? If there isn't, I have one question, and that would be regarding the meetings with the city, the county, and the school board. So Colin, if you'd be kind enough to pull that off, because it won't take but a second.
Okay.
Okay. So if somebody would be kind enough to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended, which will include the all the consent agenda items as well, that'd be great.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any questions, any comments? Any public comments? I don't see any, wait a minute. We have a hand for Shirley Bloodworth. Miss Bloodworth?
She's muted.
I'm sorry, it was a mistake.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. So in that case, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? Motion's unanimous with members Clark and Twombly not here. All right, at this point, we'll turn it over to Colin for the Executive Director report.
Mr. Chair, you did pull the joint meetings with the Gainesville City Commission. Did you want to do that now or wait till the end?
Making difference whenever you, I just have a question. It wasn't really the joint city because there's no members of the city commission on the board. So if you want to schedule a meeting for them, that's fine. But I was wondering, it also said in the backup that something about scheduling with the county commission and the school board, and we have members of both on the panel. So I wasn't sure whether that was necessary or not. So I just want to get some feedback. If we don't have to have meetings, I'm good with that. So like some input from everybody on that one.
Are you asking the question because both Karen and myself are on the board? Is that what you're saying, Lee? Is that what your question?
Yeah, they're, so I didn't know whether it was necessary to have a meeting with the whole panel, whether y'all feel comfortable advising the people on the board, or whether you want to have, face-to-face with the two boards. And Ken, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so this is I think a carryover from getting the full board on appointed by the governor. And I know that one of the things the county commission wanted to do was to meet with the entire board, because what we had done with CAP is we had continued it through this current fiscal year, which ends September, or the next fiscal year, but current budget year, which will end September of 2021. And I think it's important that this board kind of lay out for the county commission what we need, what funding we need, what resources we may need. And so I think it would make a lot of sense for the county commission to have a joint meeting with the Children's Trust Board. Based on the election, I would recommend that we do that either in December, although that's difficult, and probably January of next year, prior to the development of the 21-22 budget. That will give the two new commissioners a little bit of time to get kind of up to speed on the CAP funding, and also kind of lean in. I don't think it makes sense to have a joint meeting with two outgoing commissioners. So I would say if we can collectively, agree that we should be meeting with the county commission in January, that would make a lot of sense.
Okay. Tina?
I think the same with the school board, since we're going to have we're bringing on a different member that's going to kind of change our majority, the makeup of the board. So I think I'd like the new member to be a part of the discussion, any discussions we have, and I'll try to preface that and lay some groundwork with the school board before we come and meet with the trust. So
Okay.
maybe between November and December, we'll do that as a school board, and then during one of our workshops, and then we'll be prepared to meet with the trust in January as well.
Okay. So somebody want to make a motion just so we can give Colin direction?
So I move that we send the invite to the school board to schedule a joint meeting with between the trust and the school board in January of 2021.
And you want to add the county commission as well?
And the county commission as well, yes.
Okay, second.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ken, your hand's still up. Is that
That's old. I'll take it down.
okay? Any other questions? Anybody have any comments? Any attendees? I'm sorry.
Two members, Nancy Hart has one and Colin, I'm not sure. Their hand is up.
I do not see that.
Well, I was waving my real hand.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. I didn't
Sorry,
have you.
Lee.
I didn't have you visualized. I apologize.
Look at our beautiful faces. What can I say?
Hey, you look charming, Nancy.
I have a suggestion, just because it's logistically difficult to get all of the county commission in one place and all of us in one place. Could we create a report that one of us would take to them like an emissary? And we could do the same for the school board and for the county commission so that we minimize the logistical challenges for Colin and staff.
Ken?
So to that point, I've been updating the county commission during commission comment after all of our meetings. So, and I will continue to do that. I think this is more a policy discussion about the trust wants X, Y, and Z from the county commission from a funding standpoint. And, I can say what we want, but I think it's important that we get it, at least 3 of the county commissioners on board with whatever request that is. And I don't know what it is right now. So I've been already doing that, Nancy, with regards to a verbal report at every meeting.
Okay. And Colin, you have your hand up?
Yes, just for the record, we have already sent requests for meetings to both the county commission and the school board. and the Gainesville City Commission. We just haven't heard back from the latter two, probably has to do with the elections. So I would just ask that you approve this meeting with the City Commission so they can get it on their calendar. And we'll just wait to hear from the other two.
Okay, all right. So the motion as it stands should also include the city commission. That okay, Tina and Ken?
Yes.
Okay. Tina, is that all right?
Yes, it was. I'm sorry, I muted myself. I didn't realize it.
That's fine. Okay. All right. So all those in favor of the motion, is there any public comments? There being none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, the motion is unanimous. Discussion items, the budget, Colin?
Well, I was going to go over my report first, but we can skip it. That's.
Oh, okay. All right. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm
I get an A?
trying to be efficient with
Like in
this meeting.
school, if I get an A, right? Okay. Well, I wasn't going to say that much anyways. I did want to welcome another staff member, Nicole Odom, who's a fiscal assistant. And again, she has been a great help. She's been on the last few weeks. So we're glad to have her. That is our fourth person. For the benefit of the public, at the next, I've received several emails regarding when are we going to address the no-cost extensions, and we'll do those in September so they can be effective October 1. So there's no break in service. So at the next two meetings, those will be on the agenda for both public hearings, and they can be finalized at the September 21st final public hearing. We do have 3 additional jobs posted. I have gotten a lot of resumes, and several of you have spread the word, and I've gotten some response. So thank you very much. We'll be working our way through those. And I also wanted to let you know that the Pandemic Learning Pod contracts are done, and I expect those to go out tomorrow for signature. School started today, so those entities will both be reimbursed for whatever they do, beginning today. But those contracts are done and they'll go out. I also want to say that this is probably the last heavy meeting where there's so much administrative items on the agenda. With the finalizing the interlocal agreement for next year and the procurement policy, we will have done most of the heavy lifting to get us to be a complete independent organization starting for next year. It's not very exciting, and a lot of people want to know when new funding announcements are going to come. So I expect come October 1, our meetings will look very, very different in what we discuss and how those go. But really, this is pretty much the last heavy meeting where it's really so administrative heavy. I appreciate all of your patience in us getting through this, but the procurement policies were really the last thing to check off. So I look forward to discussing those. I also wanted to let you know that as a follow-up from the approval of all the indicators and measurements that we discussed, the next step is going to be to get some community input on what we should do to address some of these issues from subject matter experts, current agencies, parents, and children. And I will have more to say on that in September and exactly how we're going to go about that. It's going to look a lot different than were we not in the middle of a pandemic, but nevertheless, that's also probably the last piece before we bring some concrete recommendations. So everything is moving along. I know I've heard the word Groundhog Day 3 or 4 times in some private conversations. I want to let you know we are moving and things are going to look a lot different. Ms. Certain, you weren't the only one. So I saw you look, but we are progressing fairly quickly here. So things are going to get real busy and the meetings will look a lot different. I have a whole checklist of stuff that I'm not going to go over, but the point there is that, like I said, we're making progress. So really the action items on today's meeting will be the last of a very heavy lift, and come October 1, we should be ready to go.
Questions from anybody?
Lee?
Ken?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Colin, in your report, I see about the pods. Tomorrow, the county commission is going to have our very first meeting on the CARES Act money, the 46 million. And we might take some recommendations of the manager. Have you had any conversations with Michelle, the county manager, with regards to any potential future requests from the Children's Trust with regards to the pod learning?
So I had conversations via email today with Mr. Crosby, and so he's expecting something. He's aware that it's not in there. It would have to be a special request because we really don't fit in any of the current buckets. And so I gave him a number of what I think we might be looking for, which would basically be to take what we've done and extend it a second 9 weeks through the end of the year. And so those are all the details I gave them up to this point, but they should be expecting something from us.
How much is that, Colin?
It would be a little bit over 200,000.
Okay. Okay, I thank you. I'll have that on my list when we talk tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to get into kind of different agency requests. I think we're just going to be focused more on individuals and potential businesses. But in 2 weeks from now, I kind of prepped the county commission that the school board and activities related to kids' school activities should be on their mind. And so I'm hoping that in the second meeting, the middle of September, we can have a firm request. Are we meeting before September 15th again?
We have a meeting on the 14th.
Okay, so maybe this board should be prepared to put in a formal request before that next meeting between now and then, if we think we're going to ask for it. Because that would be the time to do that.
Okay.
Ken, thanks for representing us so well on the board. When we had this discussion before, wasn't there going to be a report made back to us so that we could see what the next step would be? Is that what I remember? Is that what y'all remember?
I think
So
it's
we'd
a
have to get
timing thing. I think our motion said midway through the first 9 weeks. And so I think it's more of a timing thing. So if we just have some preliminary data, I don't know exactly when the county commission is going, because I got to get through tomorrow's meeting. I don't know exactly when they're going to come back and say, when should we look at this again? But I just get a sense that folks are going to start putting their hands out when they realize that the county commission is going to reallocate some money. And I just want us to be.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you. I think we ought to do that.
I have a question then. So did I just hear from Commissioner Cornell kind of by consensus that you want me to do a formal written request between now and September 15th?
Can you go ahead and make it official?
Yes. So I would move that the executive director make a formal request to the county commission for additional potential CARES Act funding based on the program that we have in place right now.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Dr. Hart?
I'm hesitatingly just because I don't know where this is going to go tomorrow. And so if this is one of those where the county commission is not out, 200,000 is a small request, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
relative to 46 million. So if we can just kind of have a placeholder and I can just kind of say that, then if I get consensus, then I'll be able to report that back on the 14th.
Well, it's better to have it, in line. We can always say we don't need it. So any panelist comments? Any
Well,
attendees comments? Tina?
I like the idea of us doing that. I am hearing from a few folks who want to do the pod learning, and I've directed them to early learning. So the Early Learning Coalition, because I think they're managing that. So I don't know if they end up getting a whole lot of requests from parents. So I'd be in favor of the trust asking for possible reallocation of funds to help with that. Whereas some of the folks who may not do an individual app through the CARES Act, individual grant application, but this may be something that they may get some use out of, you know, that they benefit. So.
Okay. Any further comments?
My only other question is
Ben?
for Colin. Colin, do we know how many of the 200 spots we think we're going to have applications to ELC on yet?
I would say not yet, but it shouldn't be too long. We won't have any problem using the kids count spots. And I could probably give you an early number on the ELC just because we know some of our current providers also get school readiness, but I couldn't say exactly for sure just yet.
Okay.
But I can certainly have a better number by the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Lee.
Okay.
Question.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye. Oh, I think so. We
Aye.
had a hand up. I don't think you saw Judge Bullard, and it sounded like I heard Dr. Cole.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I can.
Thank
If y'all use the little hand thing, that would make it a lot easier.
I'm sorry about that. I'll try it the next time.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay.
Does this just apply to the younger kids, or will some of this money be allocated for the pods for older kids?
It's all
I believe
kids
it's,
13, isn't it?
yeah, I believe it's all kids.
So kids.
It's all kids through, I want to say 12 or 13, whatever the school readiness age is. It's 12 or 13.
And I got some feedback from the first day of school. There are very few kids, at least in the high school classes. So I would think there'd be a need certainly based on the numbers that I heard about today, there'd certainly be a need for the older kids as well.
Hmm.
I think there were 2 kids in one of my son's high school classes today.
Well,
Yeah.
anyone else? Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Dr. Hart?
I'm in favor of the motion. I don't want to delay the vote, but I was just going to say to Judge Bullard, I wonder 2 or 3 students in person, but are others participating virtually?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion is unanimous. All right. Colin, you want to start the next item?
Yes,
The
thank
budget?
you. Yep. And there's no action necessary for this part of the discussion, but on the 14th, we'll have our first public hearing, and on the 21st, the final one. And part of the process of going through the hearings is that you have to explain why the budget you're going to be asked to approve in September may be different from the tentative one that you tentatively approved back in June to make the trim notices. And so ours looks quite a bit different. And so I didn't want the first time you saw that to be in September. And so I just wanted to go through what some of the differences were and what I'm recommending. So if I have to change it, I still have some time to do that. But if you look at the item, I have a summary of all the changes listed out. But essentially, I'm making a few key recommendations. One is, last year we had only one fund, a general fund. And this year I am recommending that we expand to 2 additional funds, a special revenue fund and a capital projects fund. The special revenue fund would be where we would receive all of our grant funding, and our grants would be managed from. So specifically in this case, all of the Pritzker funding and the cash match required from us would be managed out of that fund. And the capital projects fund would be specifically to plan for what we're going to do about facilities long term after probably in 2 to 3 years. We would also, if we decide to buy a management information system, we could set aside some money in that fund for that expense as well. But really the purpose of that fund is to begin to set aside funds and be real transparent on what we might do about some facilities going forward. If we get to 11 people this year, which is what's been approved in the budget, we'll pretty much be out of space where we're at. We don't have a conference room as it is, and we will be borrowing meeting space, and that's fine. We could borrow meeting space forever. There's nothing that says we have to have a building that has self-contained space for our meetings. However, we will have to do something probably, And if not, if we just decide to stay here as it is, we can always transfer those funds somewhere else and spend it on something else. So the main change is that instead of the one fund that you saw in the budget in June, this one has 3 funds. How those funds are funded, is where you see a lot of the transfers in and the transfers out. And so that it all washes out and it balances. So the main changes are the number of funds, accounting for the grant funding from Pritzker, and then setting aside the funding for the whatever we decide to do with facilities long term. And that's it.
Any questions?
Makes sense. Thanks, Colin.
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay. So any attendees have any questions? Okay. Anybody want to entertain the thought of reducing the millage by at least the additional revenue that we got as a result of the increase in the ad valorem taxes? We had a budget without it. Okay, moving right along. Okay, next item. Colin, you want to start that one?
Ask me next year, Lee.
That's okay. That's all right. I've been hurt before.
Well, just so
Colin?
you know, the county is rolling back both the MSTU and the general millage rate. First time in 40
I
years.
saw
Yeah. So
I saw that.
Yeah.
Now I thought that I thought that there was a
take credit
time.
for that, Lee. I keep saying Lee trained me, so you can take credit for that.
No, I'm not. I think that when the state came in and reduced everybody's millage rate, I think we were at 7 point something.
Yeah.
And that was in the last, but that was not really anything the county commission did. That was something that the state kind of mandated. You're rolling these suckers back. So, and that was in the last probably 10 years. So, continue on, Colin, after that brief history lesson.
It's very interesting. Thank you.
I
I
could have sworn I heard a snore.
the next item is to really give the final blessing on our results and indicators report. And I just want to reemphasize that the data on here, that's not the only data we'll ever look at, but it does give us somewhere to start when we talk to community members about what our priorities are and what we're tracking, to be able to talk from this first. And so you asked for a number of changes. And so those changes were incorporated in the explanation. Where possible, we broke out by race. So if it's not by race, it's because we couldn't find it or we didn't have it. And we'll try to get it, but whatever we had is included in this report. We changed the infant mortality slide to go with a low birth weight. We expanded the non-fatal hospitalization rates, added some better data from the summer break stop program for food insecurity on meal gaps, added 8th grade reading levels, pretty much did whatever you asked us to do. We had some really interesting data from DJJ on racial disparities for youth arrests. I don't know if you all had a chance to look at that. I'm sure that's no new information, but it was just interesting to see laid out that way. And again, some information on foster care indicators to incorporate all ages. And we incorporated the social vulnerability index. So that is that.
Dr. Hart?
I just had one question. I didn't hear you mention adding child abuse and neglect for ages 0 to 1 and ages 0 to 5. We kind of talked about that last meeting, and I promised I would get back to you, and I didn't, but I really think we have to have confirmed cases of child abuse and neglect early on, 0 to 1, because that's when our currently funded projects are addressing, and then 0 to 5. If somebody wants it for later years, I have no objection.
Okay, so in my notes it says, and I'm trying to remember why I wrote this. It says, a child subject to maltreatment, left the same for now, would need feedback to make appropriate changes.
Yeah,
On the kids in out-of-home care though, Nancy, it does have them by age group. So if you look, you can see, and that'll reflect the more severe cases of abuse and neglect where the child had to actually be removed, and that is by age band. If you look, it's like on page 75 of our packet. It's actually interesting data. I had never seen it laid out this way.
and I'm not trying to be difficult, but this is where it would really be good to have one of our child maltreatment experts, aside from you and me, here, because I would want to know whether there are children who have confirmed cases of child abuse and neglect who are in the care of relatives, and
It's there. It gives you the placement type. Look on page 75. It has it for approved non-relative, approved relative, group care, licensed foster care, residential treatment center, or other.
okay. And is that,
It does give you a snapshot.
and does it break out by race?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any attendees questions? Have any questions? Okay, we need a motion for the approval of the changes.
So move.
Second, do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Can we have a motion and a second? Do we have any discussion? Do we have any attendees who want to weigh in on this? There being none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is unanimous. Last item, it would be the adoption of the resolution for the procurement policies. Colin?
Yes, these are our procurement policies. And if you recall back to several conversations where people wanted a process on how we were going to give out funding, this would be that. It doesn't say exactly what we're funding, but this does lay out the process. So this is kind of step one of the process of coming up with another funding cycle. This policy breaks out purchases by the trust into two groups. And so the group that most of you in the public are interested in is what we're going to call, for our purposes, direct community services. And then there's goods and services, which is everything else, like paper clips, pens, electricity, all of that. We're talking about funding agencies and services for children. The vocabulary we're going to use in this policy is direct community services. And just so all of you don't think I brainstormed this and wrote this myself, this borrows heavily from not only the county, but at least 3 other children's services councils as well. And so the idea of the term direct community services came, straight from Miami. So what should you be concerned with? And here, there's a few things. One is for items that the trust is purchasing aside from services for children. There's a whole section that talks about various levels of authority and purchasing thresholds. That would be in section 3.0 covers the authority. Section 5.0A begins with the various levels of purchasing authority to where, you may need no bids, 1 or 2 bids, or go through a whole sealed proposal type process. So just to be, really honest with you, most of what there's going to be very few instances in the trust where we're purchasing things for the trust to use that we're going to ever have to use a competitive sealed bid or a competitive sealed proposal, because most of the stuff we buy day to day is just, it's just, low dollar items, for the most part. So I'm not going to say it's never going to happen. If it does, we have a process laid out, but most of what we do is not that. So when it comes to direct community services, all of those are going to be competitively procured. So I won't be able to approve any of those. They'll all have to go through an evaluated bid process. And that is laid out in beginning in section 6.50C, steps 1 through 11. And the thing about a sealed proposal is that we get to decide the criteria, how much we're going to be charged, or the price, or the amount of the grant, however you want to say it, is only one of the factors. But essentially, the trust members or the staff gets to recommend, or you get to decide exactly what the evaluation criteria is. The policy gives us several options on what we can do to evaluate the bids. So we could simply review them and they could be scored. Then they would come back to me. All of these come back to me to review the scores and then make a recommendation. I can recommend based on the scoring, or I can recommend pretty much by the scoring, but maybe with some other suggestions. For example, if we want to make sure we hit the rural areas or a certain side of town, if we get proposals concentrated in one way, there's the flexibility for me to make another recommendation and you just to decide. We can also do things like interviews, site visits. We can basically, in this policy, do whatever we need to do to make a good decision. You may be interested in section 6.0, which lists a number of exemptions from a formal, what they call a source selection process. Again, most of these items are what I would call day-to-day items. And in several instances, for example, in 6.60B, the first, like when you get down to number 3, you can not go to bid on an item that the trust may need if someone else already bid on it and was awarded a contract, as long as they'll give us the same terms. So they call that piggybacking, but none of this applies to our grants that we give out to community agencies. Again, all of those will have to go through the competitive process. One other thing about the competitive process that's, I think it's important, because this has come up a number of times, and this would be number 11 under section 6.50C on page 97, is the provision for small provider agencies. There's a provision in here that we can go ahead and set aside a portion of dollars in a bid for what we define as small provider agencies. And the purpose is that so they wouldn't be competing in the same, they wouldn't be competing against much bigger agencies. So for example, if we had if we wanted to say, give us your best ideas for what we could do to support teenagers, yeah, I could see getting proposals from University of Florida, and I could see getting proposals from very small community-based agencies. This would allow us to set aside funds and have them compete in 2 separate pots. And so I think that's very, very important. The trick is we're going to have to decide what the thresholds are. What does it mean to be small? And what is our criteria for that? And that, in the definitions, I've left that blank because I think that's worth discussing for a few minutes here today. Lastly, I wanted to point out to all of you section 6.80. Excuse me, 6.80, there's 2 special types of solicitations that I have laid out a process for in here. One is unsolicited proposals. An unsolicited proposal would be when someone comes to their trust on their own volition, requesting that we give them funding. I really don't, I mean, I'm really not enamored with getting tons and tons of unsolicited proposals. And I would guess that, and I would hope that you would trust me, at least starting out, that most of those are going to be no, and most of them will never even come before the trust. However, I think when special situations arise, like what we had with the pandemic, and the idea for us came for something like pandemic learning pods, that it was appropriate to have a tool anyways, a vehicle where those proposals could go through some sort of evaluation. In this case, it was me, but eventually it'd be a team of people that work with me here, and that those could be brought before the trust, if the funding was available and we thought it met a very specific need at the time. So there's a process for to do that should the situation arise. The other one in here is a process strictly for matching and leveraged funds, and it lays out a conditions and essentially a criteria, and then those again would be brought forward to the trust on a case-by-case basis. You really can't get those into a funding cycle because the grants that you're matching out in the community happen as they happen. So you'll set aside an amount of money every year, and I guess when it's out, or you can allocate more towards it. But this would lay out a process on how to address some of those needs as well. So that pretty much is the highlights. You may have other questions. Like I said, this is really the last heavy lift before we start the new fiscal year in October. So I'll be happy to hear what you have to say.
Ken?
I was just going to make a motion when you're ready.
Okay. Maggie? Think you're on mute, Maggie.
I know. I was trying to hit the button and my cursor was missing it. I like those two sections, Colin. The only recommendation I would make is that in the unsolicited proposals, you don't actually say anywhere in there that this is anticipated to be an unusual occurrence and not a routine occurrence. And I think it's worth saying that out loud in the process.
Okay.
Okay, any further comments? Any, want a motion, Ken?
Yeah, so I would move that the trust adopt resolution 2020-12, chapter 6 procurement policies, and add what Maggie said. Unsolicited proposals are rare and hardly ever even considered, or whatever the appropriate words are for the executive director. I think I didn't know this when I first got on the county commission, but I was taught very quickly that we want that, because otherwise it puts us all in a very, very difficult position if we don't follow our process. So that's really rare. I think 100-year pandemic qualifies. So, but I think it needs to be maybe not that extreme, but to Maggie's point.
Okay. So any further comments? Any attendees? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 I
Those opposed? Motion's unanimous. And it looks like the number of panelists changed. Let's see if we got some of the,
Looks like
Okay.
Cheryl came on.
Cheryl? Okay, all right, Cheryl. Welcome to the meeting. Okay. Item number, I believe it's 10. Yes. Item 10. Colin?
Yes. This is our interlocal agreement. This will be effective October 1st. We're very happy to be able to continue our relationships with the county and the clerk and all of our people that have helped make it successful thus far. There are some changes, mainly five things you should be aware of. We're changing our arrangement with the the county's IT services division to a fee for services arrangement. So as we add on people, we're charged a monthly per month per person fee for help desk support and all the stuff that comes with it. They were out today setting up some printers and things like that. That covers all of the support for phones and everything. So in the last year it was a flat fee, and so this is much better. This also will convert trust employees from county employees to trust employees come October 1st. We will handle all of our own procurements, so it's very important. Thank you for passing that policy, or I'm not sure how we'd have done that, but we'll handle all that in-house going forward. We're going to opt in to the county's health insurance program and the dental insurance program and the vision program. There's other benefits that there's around the supplemental retirement, which you just approved in the consent agenda that we'll add to the employee handbook. And there's a few other supplemental things and flex spending that we'll be handling on our own that I'll be bringing to you in September just to modify the employee handbook to make sure they're in there. But we will continue on with the county's health insurance, dental, vision insurance, and all of that. And we are going to also be establishing, as you approved at the last meeting, our own relationship with the Florida retirement system. So we'll cease being county employees in the Florida retirement system and move over to being trust employees. I had one requested change from the county, which I would ask that when there's a motion that you would incorporate this, or maybe I had two. I think the one was we have some fee for services as needed arrangements in here. If we need some additional HR consultation, we can call up the county and they'll consult with us on an hourly basis. They've asked us to add that in to the budget office for help desk support, specifically around the New World financial system. So I told them we would be happy to add that in. And Bob, there's something else you asked me today that I said remind me of, and I forgot what it was.
I thought it was a New World issue.
Oh, okay. Oh, I think there was one more issue. I don't know if it's in here or not, but was it the notice of renewal, Bob? Tell me what that was about.
Oh, no, that was just a question Sylvia had, whether you wanted this to be an evergreen that you opted out of, or you wanted to affirmatively opt into every year.
Yeah, I think for now, my suggestion would be, my recommendation would be that while as we're getting started here and building, that we take a look at this every year rather than just let it continue.
And that's
There
how
may
that.
be a point where we're okay with just letting it go on, but for now, I think we should look at it every year. So those are the highlights, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Colin, specifically, are you looking for language that says that when we go and solicit something that is not in this contract, that it's done on a fee for service basis? Is that the language
What
you're
I'm looking
looking
to
for?
add, yes, on what I asked you to add. What I'm looking to add is on the fee schedule. Oh, let's see. Yeah, so it would be an
I heard
addition.
human resources and another one.
So on attachment B, which is page 119 in your packet, there's a thing where it says financial software hosting services. And we pay a flat fee for the software, which is, I think, $8,750. They want us to add on, I think it's, I don't know what it is, but it's whatever the young man who provides our configuration and support around that. They want to charge for his time as well. And so we would just fill in whatever the hourly rate is plus benefits, just like we did HR. And the fee schedule is on page, hang on. If anyone knows where the fee schedule is, just wants to let out the page, let me know.
Colin,
The motion, go ahead, Ken.
well, I mean, essentially what he's asking, I think, is to just make 1.5.1 to be the same as 1.1.1, which is consultation on a fee base as needed.
Yeah,
under
and add the fee.
financial software.
Okay, well, that sounds like inroad to a motion, Ken.
Okay, sorry, yeah. So I will, if I can read it directly here. Move that we authorize the executive director to enter into an interlocal agreement between the Children's Trust of Alachua County, the clerk of the Circuit Court of the 8th Judicial Circuit, and the Board of County Commissioners of Alachua County, Florida, and adjust the attachment B to add a fee as needed for O&B similar to the HR.
Good job.
Is that everything?
Do we have a second?
I'll second
Yeah.
it.
And
Okay, we have a motion.
let me just state that this is an enormous amount of work that Colin has done. And I anticipated that this would be in the second year because he's onboarding everybody. But Colin, this is great work and a lot of work, and it's appreciated by the taxpayers because it means more money will be available to our kids next year. So thank you.
I second that. I told him that too.
Yes. Thank you.
Boring work.
Okay.
All the little boring administrative stuff, but it's been good he's done a good job. I appreciate that. And thanks, Colin. You've done a good job in transitioning all this.
Thank you. I wouldn't have been able to do it without Jennifer and Nicole, and had they not come on, we'd have been up a creek. So I have
Thank you, staff.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. No further comments. Any attendees have any comments? There being none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion is unanimous. So the next item is for your information. And this section are anyone who would like to bring up anything that they, topic that they think might be of interest to the trust and to the community. Maggie.
I just wanted to say that Colin presented to the Community Foundation Needs Assessment Committee last week last week, I think. And he, along with Dr. Knopf, and it was really great to see the amount of collaboration that's going on around making sure that we're addressing kids' needs. And Colin did a great job of presenting. And I think that that kind of collaboration, along with Ken, what you were talking about in terms of the county and prioritization of available funds, is going to just make everything a lot better. So I wanted, in the midst of writing all of these boring little administrative policies and contracts, he's also just really reaching out, and that's really good to see. So thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Anyone else? Okay. All right. For now to general public comments. And if you are listening or watching the meeting through the webinar format, please use your raise your hand function. Simply click on the participants icon and ignore the thunder in the Zoom toolbar and look at your raise your hand button, the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Those of you who are viewing through the webinar may also comment via the chat function. And if you're watching through Facebook Live and would like to comment, please call the call-in number that was given to you earlier. Any comments from any of the attendees? Okay, all right. Any board member comments?
I was going to ask how the first day of school went to the superintendent, but she's not here. Have you heard anything, Tina?
I have not. I've not officially from staff, but just from a few parents reaching in, the expected technology issues, and just trying to get everybody settled, just kind of first day jitters and all with high flex and all teaching digital and in person. I think a few kinks. So hopefully day 2 will be smoother.
Anyone else? Okay, the next meeting date. The regular meeting will be Monday, September 14th at 4 p.m. It's a virtual meeting. First public hearing for 2021, the trim and budget meeting begins at 5:01, and a regular meeting on Monday, September 21st, 4 o'clock. Virtual and the final hearing for 2021 trim and budget begins at 5:01. I know that the city of Newberry is meeting face-to-face, more or less. Is that something that anybody would like to consider? I think we have the option of meeting together as opposed to virtually. Anybody interested in that?
So the school board, we're meeting in person, but the problem that we're having, which we have technology issues, is public participation. And so they're not wanting, so I don't know where we would meet, Lee. I'm just saying it. So if we want like the public to participate and they're going to come in person, what I'm finding with the school board is it's almost, I'm not going to say impossible, but it's a real inconvenience for the public to do citizen input and all that, because they're not letting anybody come in the boardroom other than us. So they have to stand outside in that hot breezeway, unair conditioned breezeway. So, I mean, I'm for meeting in person, but we don't want to like burden the citizens and which could hamper community input or engagement. So I don't know.
Well, I know that they are not allowing people in their chambers. So I'll find out what they're doing as far as public input. See if we can do something. Dr. Hart?
Okay, just from the nerdy doctor in the group, it's too soon to be meeting in groups bigger than 10 people. We're insane if we propose to do that. And Colin has done such a good job of figuring out how to allow the public to participate in our meetings right now. I just think we should keep going with it until we have a vaccine. That's my opinion.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, I'm starting to get this down, so the meetings are getting a little bit more.
I was about to say,
fluid.
Lee, it's not even 5 yet. We're almost done. You got this down. I like where we are here. I agree with Dr. Hart.
Okay.
For now.
Okay, well, the next step, y'all, is while we watch Dr. Labarta get attacked by her friendly dog there, and I think the dog's winning, this meeting is adjourned.
Take care. Take care, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.